Good morning, everyone. This is Mike O'Malley here with the Hurricane Outlook and discussion for October 23rd, 2022, at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We have a lot to talk about today, including possible tropical troubles forming in the Caribbean over the next couple of days. Who could be impacted, and is this a legitimate threat? Plus, severe weather ongoing across portions of the U.S. So let's go and jump straight into everything. Taking a wide look across the tropical Atlantic this morning, we noticed that we really only have one system out there, Invest Area 94L. This is located several hundred miles to the east of Bermuda. This is unlikely to undergo any substantial development over the next several days as a result of shear across the region. But we also have Hurricane Roslyn out there in the East Pacific Basin, and this is still causing some issues across portions of the Mexican coastline as it made landfall earlier this morning. Looking at Invest Area 94L this morning, we noticed that it's really devoid of any substantial convection at the moment. Nothing really ongoing with this system. Some shower and thunderstorm activity around this area of low pressure, but it's not really undergoing anything substantial at this point, and it's likely to remain that way for the next several days as strong shear across the region will be preventing any substantial development, and that is the sole reason why this is not really expected to do much of anything for the next several days. And in the East Pacific Basin, we have Hurricane Roslyn, however the heck you pronounce it. We have this system out here. It's a tropical entity causing some issues across portions of the Mexican coastline. Of course, this made landfall as a Category 3 hurricane this morning. Notice the track forecast does continue this inlet across the high train of Mexico, rapidly weakening as it does so, but will be bringing moisture to portions of Texas over the next several days. And in the Western Caribbean this morning, not really much is ongoing. Still some scattered shower and thunderstorm activity across portions of the Caribbean, including Jamaica and Cuba and portions of the Dominican Republic. Again, this is not really expected to develop into much. However, we will be watching the Caribbean over the next several weeks for potential development, really within about the next week or so. We could have potential tropical troubles in the Caribbean. So let's go and look at that. So looking at the GFS forecast for this particular system, we notice that we have a tropical entity trying to develop here by November 1st. This would be November 1st, early in the morning. We have potential hurricane development trying to form out there. However, of course, this is the GFS, but this doesn't really look like the spurious vorticity problem that the GFS has been known for. We notice that it actually develops from a tropical wave and not just spurious vorticity. So this does lend a little bit more credence to the idea. One of the things you must have for tropical cyclone activity is low vertical shear. We're looking at the 300 millibar wind plot here and MSLP at the surface. And we notice that while initially there will be some shear from a tropical upper tropospheric trough digging in across the area, we notice that the shear actually remains pretty low in the Caribbean for several days. And this actually may help to facilitate development as a enhanced convectively coupled Kelvin wave passes across the area, and this is likely to only enhance the upward vertical motion in the atmosphere. And we notice that with the vertical shear being low, we end up with a developing tropical cyclone on the forecast guidance. And this is now supported on almost all of the guidance except for the European at the moment. And we know that the European does have a problem with undersampling developing tropical cyclones, so we'll have to monitor. But the other thing you need besides low shear is you need moisture in the atmosphere. And we notice looking at the precipitable water field that there actually will be plenty of moisture in the atmosphere for this particular system to work with, shall it decide to go on to develop. There will be a little bit of dry air there coming in around the 31st of October, according to the forecast guidance. So we'll have to see if that might be somewhat of a hindering factor with any substantial development. However, we notice that on the GFS, this does go on to become an intense hurricane. And while it is getting late in the season, it's not unheard of to have intense hurricanes in the Caribbean in November. Just think Iota in 2020. So moving away from the tropical aspect of everything, we have a few things ongoing across the U.S. today. First of all, it is a pretty quiet day across most of the central and southern U.S. However, we notice a few weather systems starting to come into play. First of all, we have the tropical moisture from Hurricane Roslyn or Roslyn, however you want to pronounce it, down there in the East Pacific Basin. And then we also have moisture streaming from a frontal boundary that is now located in the Atlantic, but that is causing a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity, well, mainly just a lot of heavy showers across portions of the northeast U.S., And then we also have a weather system entering the picture in the western and Midwest U.S. This will be causing some potential for severe weather across those areas for the next several days. While temperatures seem to be moderating quite nicely, we're in the mid 70s now across portions of the Florida Peninsula today. In the northeastern United States, we notice that we do have shower and thunderstorm activity with that frontal system that's remained off the coast. And this is actually causing shower and thunderstorm activity to lift northward along where that surface convergence is maximized. And this will be likely producing scattered showers and thunderstorms, potential for even some flooding across portions of the Carolina coastline and the Northeast. But we are also watching for potential severe weather today across portions of the Midwest U.S., including Omaha and Sioux City, all the way up through Minneapolis, down through San Angelo and Lawton. We notice that there will be the potential for severe weather instability already increasing across the area. Notice we have a warm front draped across portions of Kansas and Nebraska that might aid in tornado potential. Looking at the storm relative helicity here, we notice that in the 0 to 3 kilometer layer, right near that warm front is where we have those values maximized very high on the scale. And that might lead to an elevated tornado or at least an elevated supercell threat later today into this evening as those thunderstorms begin to interact with that higher shear environment. Looking at how this might pan out on the HRRR, we have the ML Cape, MSLP, and the simulated reflectivity overlaid here. We noticed by about 10 p.m. this evening, we start to get those shower and thunderstorms to develop along this front here. And what this is going to do as we head throughout the evening, produce mainly a damaging wind and hail threat, but isolated tornadoes cannot be ruled out with some of that higher shear in any of the surface-based storms. But heading into tomorrow as well, we also have the potential for severe storms across portions of the southern U.S. We notice across portions of Texas in through extreme southwestern Arkansas and portions of western Louisiana. We have a slight risk for severe storms for those areas as well, including places like Houston, Beaumont, down towards Tyler, Texas, and Shreveport and Texarkana. And this includes the threat for damaging winds, tornadoes, and large hail. So with that being said, I do hope you have a great rest of your afternoon and evening. Of course, I am Michael O'Malley, and I'll talk to you guys again some more tomorrow.